What if the ending of Outlander Season 8, Episode 9 is not just a conclusion to one chapter, but a warning that everything Jaime Fraser has built, fought for, and bled for is standing at the edge of collapse, and the final stand we have been waiting for is closer than any of us are ready to face? Because this episode does not end with relief. It does not end with safety. It ends with the kind of silence that sits heavy in your chest, the kind that tells you something enormous is coming, and no one, not Jaime, not Claire, not the Ridge itself, will be the same once it arrives. If you thought the emotional weight of this season could not get any heavier, Episode 9 just proved you wrong. The ending of Episode 9 is not built on explosions or sudden deaths. It is built on something far more powerful. It is built on the feeling that time is running out, that history is tightening its grip, and that every choice made in these final hours will echo far beyond the battle lines of King's Mountain. And to truly understand what the ending means, you have to understand what the entire episode was quietly constructing beneath the surface, because nothing in this ending is accidental. Every moment was placed there with purpose. From the very first scene, the episode carries this atmosphere of calm before destruction. Jaime stands near King's Mountain, looking out over the land in the quiet aftermath of conflict. And what strikes you immediately is not what he says, but what his face holds. There is no triumph in his expression. There is no relief. There is only the weight of a man who has survived something he is not entirely sure he deserved to survive. He is carrying Fergus with him, not physically, but in every breath, in every step, in the way his jaw tightens when no one is looking. The loss of Fergus is not a wound that has healed. It is a wound that the episode refuses to let the audience forget, because it was not supposed to heal yet. It was supposed to hurt, and it does. Claire watches him from a distance in these opening moments, and there is a language between them that goes beyond dialogue. She sees what others cannot see. She sees a man who is preparing himself for something he has not yet spoken aloud, and that terrifies her in a way that battle never could. Because Claire has always understood Jaime's silences better than his words, and his silence in this moment is the loudest thing in the episode. She knows what it means when Jaime goes quiet like that. It means he is deciding something. It means he is measuring the cost of something, and the audience feels exactly what she feels, that familiar dread of loving someone who keeps walking toward danger. Back at Fraser's Ridge, the grief of Fergus's absence has settled into the walls of the community like smoke that refuses to clear. Marsali is the emotional center of the Ridge in this episode, and the way her arc unfolds is one of the most quietly devastating things the episode gives us. She is not falling apart. That almost would have been easier to watch. Instead, she is standing and she is angry, and her anger is the kind that comes from love so deep it has nowhere left to go. There is a moment where she stands in the doorway of the cabin at sunset, holding her youngest child, and for a breath, we see her transform. She is not just a widow grieving a husband. She is a mother deciding that grief will not be the thing that defines her children's lives. She tells Claire that she wants them to grow up brave, not broken, and that line lands with a weight that stays with you. Because in a story full of grand historical battles, it is this quiet declaration from a woman who has lost everything that cuts the deepest. William Ransom's emotional journey in this episode is the kind of storytelling that Outlander has always done best. Taking a character who appears to be one thing on the surface and slowly, painfully revealing what is actually breaking apart inside them. William has been running from Lord John, running from the Fraser name, running from the version of himself that he does not yet know how to accept. And in episode 9, that running finally comes to a stop, not because he chooses to stop, but because events force him to face what he has been avoiding. When Lord John steps forward to protect William from armed men who have come searching, placing himself directly in danger, something shifts in William permanently. The anger does not disappear immediately. Anger rarely works that way, but it cracks. And through that crack, something honest finally starts to emerge. The confrontation between William and Lord John is one of the most emotionally layered scenes of the episode. Lord John, who has always carried himself with control and composure, finally speaks from frustration, and what he says is simple but devastating. He tells William that running from truth will not make him free, it will only make him more lost. And William, for the first time, does not walk away. He listens. He actually listens. That moment is small in its construction, but enormous in what it represents, because it marks the beginning of William choosing to become something other than his own worst impulse. Later, when Lord John is taken under suspicion and treated as a political pawn, William's guilt becomes almost unbearable to watch. He walks alone through the woods, replaying every harsh word he ever threw at Lord John, every door he slammed shut, every time he chose pride over love. And when he finally goes to Lord John and they speak privately, the scene does not give you grand speeches or perfectly crafted apologies. It gives you honesty. It gives you a young man saying he does not know who he is anymore, not fully English, not fully Fraser, not fully certain of anything. And Lord John, with the kind of quiet dignity that only comes from a man who has loved without condition, tells him that love does not disappear because of anger. That reconciliation is not the resolution of everything between them, but it is real, it is earned, and in a story that has tested every relationship to its limit, earned moments feel like oxygen. The arrival of armed men at the ridge at night is the moment in episode 9 where the atmosphere changes from tense to genuinely alarming. Shots fired into the air, horses heard in the darkness, children waking in fear. This is not a full assault, it is a message. And Jaime understands messages. He gathers his community with calm authority, and the way he moves through that fear, steady and grounded, is a reminder of who this man is at his core. He is not fearless. He is afraid for every single person on that ridge, but he does not let fear speak louder than purpose. The scene is not violent in its damage, but it is violent in its meaning, because after that night, no one on the ridge can pretend anymore. The war has come to their doorstep. The illusion of safety has been completely shattered. There is also the matter of the suspected traitor, someone close to the ridge who may be feeding information to British forces that are reorganizing faster than anyone anticipated. The episode does not reveal this person fully. It is too smart for that. Instead, it plants suspicion like a seed in dry ground, letting it spread into every corner of the community, into every conversation, into every glance between people who used to trust each other completely. And that paranoia is perhaps more dangerous than any enemy army because it attacks from the inside. Claire sees it happening and understands what it could do. She understands that a community that stops trusting itself is already half defeated. Brianna and Roger find themselves at their own crossroads in this episode, and their quiet nighttime conversation is one of those moments that reminds you, this show has never been purely about Jaime and Claire. It has always been about what love costs across generations. Roger asks the question that has been sitting unspoken between them for a long time. Is staying in this time protecting their children or putting them in greater danger? Brianna, who has grown into someone stronger and more certain than the woman who first stepped through the stones, refuses to let fear make the decision for her. But you can see the doubt underneath her certainty. She has already lost so much. The thought of losing her parents again is something she carries quietly, but constantly. Their conversation does not resolve anything. It was never meant to. It was meant to remind you that these are real people making impossible choices and that love alone cannot protect anyone from history. And then there is the moment that anchors everything. Jaime and Claire alone together before he prepares to take a strategic step that could protect the ridge or expose it further. They do not talk about death directly. They never quite do, but it is there between them, quiet and heavy, in the space between every word. The camera stays on their hands touching, and it is such a deliberate choice. Because this story began with two people finding each other across impossible distance, and it has always come back to the simple and extraordinary fact of choosing each other. Claire tells him that their love has crossed centuries, that as long as they stand together, they are stronger than history itself. And Jaime, the man who has carried so much for so long, finally lets himself be held by that truth for just a moment. The final scene of episode 9 is where everything comes together in a way that feels both inevitable and heartbreaking. Dawn rises over Fraser's ridge. Smoke curls from early fires into the cold morning air. People move with quiet purpose. William stands beside Jaime, not reconciled, not forgiven, not finished, but present. no longer on the other side of a wall he built from pride and confusion. Brianna watches the horizon, thinking about a future she once knew the shape of, now completely uncertain. Claire looks at the ridge and understands that what was built here is not just a home. It is a legacy, something that was made from survival and sacrifice and a love that refused to be reasonable. And then, just as the light begins to strengthen, a distant signal appears on the hill, a warning, a confirmation that what is coming is closer than anyone hoped. The screen does not fade on panic, it fades on determination, and that is the most powerful choice the episode could have made. Because panic is temporary, determination is a decision, and every character standing in that final frame has decided something. Jaime has decided to fight not just for the revolution, but for the home he built with his hands and his heart. Claire has decided that fear will not be the last word between them. William has decided to stop running. Marsali has decided that her children will grow up knowing courage. Brianna and Roger have decided that this time, this land, this family is worth every risk. What the ending of episode 9 ultimately explains is not just what happened in the battle or who survived the confrontation at the ridge. It explains what this entire final season has been building toward. It explains that the greatest sacrifice is not always dying for something. Sometimes the greatest sacrifice is choosing to live for it, to stay, to rebuild, to face the next morning, even when everything in you wants to collapse. Jaime's final stand is not just a military moment, it is an emotional one. It is a man standing on the land he loves, surrounded by the people he would die for, and choosing one more time to hold the line. And if episode 9 proves anything, it is that season 8 is not ending quietly. It is not ending with resolution or peace or the kind of comfortable closure that lets you breathe easily. It is ending with weight, with consequence, with the full force of everything these characters have been through, pressing down on a single final hour that promises to demand more from them than anything that came before. The signal on the hill at the end of episode 9 is not just a plot detail. It is a promise that episode 10 is coming, that it will not be gentle, and that when it arrives, nothing, not the ridge, not the relationships, not the carefully built world of Fraser's legacy, will walk away unchanged.